G'day guys, how's it going? I'm Aaron Whitnall, this is ACWSport, and here is everything that happened in week 28 of the 2017-2018 Premier League season. Now, of course, I'm not going to be talking about Manchester City and Arsenal because they played in the League Cup final at the weekend. Arsenal did get embarrassed though. And they will meet on Thursday night at the Emirates to play the fixture that should have been played this weekend. So, let's have a look at all of the other fixtures that were played out, starting with the biggest one of the weekend that was played out at Old Trafford, Manchester United versus Chelsea, and it saw Jose Mourinho come out on top in his war with Antonio Conte. United winning 2-1. Now, going into this game, United actually had an abysmal record against Chelsea. They'd only won one of their last 14 games against the Blues, drawing 5 and losing 8. So, the impetus was really on United to, pick up this win and really show people that, they're second in the table for a reason, and they did that. However, they started off incredibly poor. First 20 minutes, it looked like Chelsea were going to absolutely destroy them. Morata hit the bar in the first minute, and from that point on, Chelsea were just so dominant in possession, and United didn't really have any answer. They didn't know what to do. The one attack United did start to build up to, Chelsea caught them out. Pogba wasn't strong enough in the air for me, and Chelsea caught them on the counter-attack. Willian went down the other end, and of course, in the form he's in, once again showing in this game, for me, he was Chelsea's best player again. Smashed it past David De Gea, gave Chelsea the lead, and it was really worrying signs for United. Willian now, he's been involved 19 goals so far this season for Chelsea. Considering he's a winger, he's really doing well for them, and for me, still doesn't get the attention he deserves. Because for me, he outshone Hazard once again in a big game. I just think he puts in more effort, getting back, getting forward, and so on and so forth. And it's really started to pay off for him. But from that moment, United all of a sudden woke up. They gradually started grinding themselves back into the game. The first half wasn't the prettiest game of football in the world to watch. And you still thought Chelsea got this. And then came a moment that Romelu Lukaku has been waiting for since he joined Manchester United. And all the United fans have been waiting for since he joined United. He finally scored against a team in the top 8. His first goal of the season against anyone in the top 8. And it was a wonderful, wonderful goal, really. He held the ball up, kind of lost it. Then he somehow managed to get it through to Alexis, who then got it through to Martial, who then played it back into Lukaku. Took a wonderful touch and then placed it past Courtois, who had absolutely no chance. And out of nowhere, United were level. And it really, all of a sudden, brought them back into the game. And the second half was a completely different game entirely because United were the better team in the second half. Lukaku really took the game to Chelsea pretty much on his own, really. He almost scored an absolutely stunning bicycle kick from an Alexis Sanchez cross. And then after that, he then, from being goal scorer, became provider, setting up Jesse Lingard, held up a couple of Chelsea players well, crossed in the ball beautifully. Lingard, who was on as a substitute, running into the box, glanced the header, kind of wrong foot in Courtois, gave United the lead. And for the first time this season, Chelsea have lost after taking the lead. They'd actually won every single game this season that they've taken the lead in 15 games. So, big defeat for Chelsea in that sense. And, of course, Jesse Lingard's Black Panther celebration was awesome. Massive nerd, so I love that film. So really appreciating that. However, even though United won this game, Chelsea were incredibly unlucky to not have come out of this game with a draw because Morata did score, but it was chalked off because he looked offside. And you can understand why from the liner's perspective, because of the way he was leaning, Lindelof was leaning. But Lindelof's right foot was actually playing Morata onside. But like I said, due to the majority of the body kind of crossing over like that, it looked like Morata was off. So you can understand why the liner gave it, but sadly it was the wrong decision. Chelsea will feel very unlucky that they didn't get at least a point out of this. They now find themselves 5th in the table though, and this is a massive, massive, moment for Chelsea because if they lose out on Champions League football this season, it's going to have some big consequences for them. They're really, it's going to be really, really tight. Massive, massive win for Manchester United, though. They needed this so much, especially after all the critics and all the kind of gossip you've been hearing in the last few weeks about Pogba and their unhappiness. And, would Jose go or would Pogba go? And are they going to start falling down the table? Could they finish below Arsenal because there's a crisis at the club? They're not. They've cemented themselves in second spot. They're now 6 points ahead of Chelsea. Big, big gap. However, there is one team that is closest to them, and that is Liverpool, who picked up a massive win over West Ham. Again, this was kind of a cruise, really. It could have been I mean, could have been 7 or 8 on another day because they looked relentless. But I mean, what do you expect? David Moyes at Anfield, he does not like to win there. He's never won there, only drawing 7 and losing 8 in his entire managerial career between Everton, Manchester United, and of course West Ham. And for me, he just made some bizarre decisions from the start. Yeah, Arnautovic played well, but how can you start Javier Hernandez on the bench when he's got 3 goals in his last 4 games and he's in form? It's a little bit harsh. And he's got a decent scoring record against Liverpool as well. So really does baffle me. But, West Ham, they were okay. Really, they created a few chances, but ultimately Liverpool on another day would have blown them away even more than this. Antonio did get a good goal to pull it back to 3-1. But again, why start him on the bench? It just doesn't make any sense for me. He's one of your best players. And these are some of the decisions that just aren't quite making sense to me in terms of how he's lining his team up. But look, I want to talk about Liverpool because they were absolutely phenomenal again. Mane, Salah and Firmino have now scored 66 goals between them this season. When Emre Can scored for Liverpool, that was Liverpool's 100th goal of the season so far. Only 40 games played. That's really, really awesome. Second highest goal scorers in England, behind obviously Manchester City. And of course, after Can scored, it was then Salah's turn to get on the score sheet. He bagged his 31st goal of the season, and he now equals Luis Suarez's best ever goal-scoring tally in a single season for Liverpool. In the same amount of games as well, 37 games, 31 goals. He's amazing, and I mean, it's only February. It's going to be scary to see how many he can get. And there's a real race going on between him and Harry Kane, which is going to be exciting to see how it plays out. But from that point on, Liverpool just took complete control. Firmino scored another look the other way goal. And then Mane got in on the action as well. So, Liverpool kind of cruised in the end. But, they were almost unplayable in one way. Closing the gap to United, 22 points. Cannot wait for a couple of weeks' time when they meet at Old Trafford. But, big win for them. And then, as I said, Chelsea were actually pushed out of the top 4 this weekend because Tottenham picked up a last-minute win at Crystal Palace. Harry Kane scoring in the 88th minute to give Tottenham all 3 points and send them 4th in the Premier League table. Now, look, this wasn't the best game, let's be fair. There's not too much to really say about it. Palace are very weak at the moment. They've got 12 real key players out injured. Tottenham did create a lot of chances, but were also very wasteful, and they kind of won without playing well, really, because even though they created chances, it wasn't their best performance, and they relied on a last-minute Harry Kane goal to get them that win, and Kane had missed some sitters before, so it showed that Tottenham weren't quite at the races entirely, but if you can win when not playing well, that says that your team is going in the right direction. As for Palace, Benteke only touched the ball 4 times in the last third, in the whole game. I'm pretty sure that sums up exactly how Palace played. But it was a big 4 team, so you weren't expecting Palace to beat them anyway. But that's how that game played out. Now moving further down the table, and after all of the good that we've seen Swansea produce in the last few weeks, really turning their season around, they were humbled away at Brighton, 4-1. Glenn Murray getting on the score sheet twice. He's now the 3rd highest English goal scorer in the Premier League with 10 goals. Only 4th highest. Only Jamie Vardy, Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane have more goals than him this season. Swansea, despite their loss, have taken more points in their last 7 games under Carvajal than they had in their previous 20 before Carvajal came to the club. So it shows you that they're moving in the right direction. And I honestly think because of the way they're moving at the moment, they will stay up, which is unthinkable because only a few weeks back I just said I didn't see how they could do it. But they've done it. It's amazing. And, fair play to it. All right, there could have been a couple more goals in the game because both teams hit the woodwork. But in the end, Brighton saw them off. And Locadia, he scored in his Premier League debut. 2 goals in 2 games for him, now scoring in his FA Cup and Premier League debut. Great start for him at life at Brighton. And hopefully that continues because it's always good to see good new players coming into the Premier League. As for right down at the bottom of the Premier League, this season has got to be over for West Brom now. They lost 2-1 at home to Huddersfield. And I just don't really know what more there is to say other than they're just awful, really. I still to this day don't understand why they sacked Pulis, especially when you look at the fact that 5 of West Brom's last 6 goals have all come from headers from corners. That's Tony Pulis tactics. Why sack Pulis? I just don't think they would have got relegated. I don't think the season would have been great, but I don't think they would have got relegated, and they could have, parted company with Pulis in the summer, knowing that they were still a Premier League team. And then, they could have brought in someone new. But why Pardew? I don't know. Look, I'm sure Pardew's a lovely guy. I just don't rate him as a manager. Never have. And, yeah, I don't really know what more to say. I'm just baffled West Brom did it. But they've only won 3 of their last 37 games in all competitions. You can understand why the bottom of the Premier League. I mean, Rodriguez and Rondon as a strike partnership have only scored 8 goals between them this season. They're just naff. But as for Huddersfield, great result. For me, they're all but safe now, really. I know that it's still tight down there, but I just can't see how I just can't see how West Brom, Stoke and Southampton are going to get enough points to stay up, really. I just think they're too far adrift in terms of their actual team performances, really. So, yeah, I mean, look, great for Mounier. He's back on form for Huddersfield. He's now got 4 in his last 6, 8 for the season so far. Hopefully that can continue in the coming weeks. But, yeah, another bitterly disappointing defeat to West Brom. And it's quite toxic to watch, really, at the moment. All the boos at full time. Not nice to see, but what do you expect? It's just one of those. We then saw the comeback of the weekend at Bournemouth. They came from 2-0 down at home to draw with Newcastle. Newcastle, scoring both their goals through Dwight Gale, who'd scored his first goals since December the 9th to give Newcastle the lead. And, you know, since the start of last season, he scored 28 goals for them. And considering that, you know, Pardew at Palace didn't think he was good enough, I think Dwight Gale's more than proved himself to be a half decent, definitely good in the Championship. And, you know, he seems to pop up with a good goal every now and then when Newcastle really need it. Even though, obviously, I know his last goal was back in December, but he's been kind of in and out of the team. But when he plays, he does seem to get in the action and, you know, be around the box and stuff like that. So, you know, fair play to him. He's doing all right. But yeah, look, Bournemouth pulled it back. They, first of all, thanks to a stunning goal from Smith to get them back into the game. And then obviously equalised late on. Both goals coming in the last 11 minutes. Fair play to Bournemouth for showing some fight, because before that it literally looked like it was just a training match for Newcastle. Bournemouth weren't playing very well. I think both teams will be fairly satisfied with the point, because they've both been in half-decent form recently. And again, I think these two teams are more than safe. Leicester, though, they played a team that, for me, aren't safe. Stoke. I really think Stoke are going to go down. I just think, for the quality of player they have, they shouldn't be where they are. I mean, look at Shaqiri for prime example. I know he's scored in each of his last 3 games, but that's the first time in his career that he's scored in 3 successive games in any of Europe's top 5 leagues. When you consider the career he has and how big a name he is, that's awful. Because you should expect better. And that pretty much sums up Stoke for me. You just expect better from players when you consider the quality of players that they have. And nothing sums that up more than the goal that they conceded. Now, not every goalkeeper makes a mistake. It was an awful one to watch, though, from Jack Butland for Leicester's equaliser. But look, I mean, fair play to Leicester for, you know, getting back into the game. It wasn't their best performance. Fair play to Stoke for getting a point. I think Leicester will be more disappointed out of these two teams, because, especially with Burnley dropping more points this weekend, they really want to get that 7th spot. And yeah, I mean, surely the bubble's going to burst for Burnley soon. We'll get onto them shortly, but yeah, Leicester will be really disappointed to have dropped points at home. As for the World Cup and Jamie Vardy, I fully expect him to be in the team. And I really think he could be England's secret weapon, especially if England play any big teams, like obviously Belgium in the last group game, and should England get through any teams beyond that, because he's best suited when he plays big teams. And it's because the big teams, whether it's in the Premier League, Champions League last year, or at international level, they always play higher lines because they want to be on the ball more and they want to press and stuff like that. That's where Vardy's a secret weapon, and that's why he scores more goals against the big teams, because he gets in behind, really goes at them, and that's where he gets most of his goals from. So just something to bear in mind as England obviously head to the World Cup in the summer. And then the other 2 games that were played out this weekend weren't the best games, to say the least. First of all, Watford, they beat Everton 1-0. Troy Deeney with the only goal of the game. There's not really too much else to say. Even on Match of the Day, they said it was a fairly boring game. They didn't really have too much to say about it. But as for Everton, I mean, when you consider how good the start was Sam Allardyce has made, they've only won 2 of their last 11 games, and they've lost all 4 of their last away matches. So whether or not Allardyce is there next season, I'm not entirely sure. Especially because, you know, Arsenal, for example, have given teams like Everton, Leicester and Burnley so many chances to catch them that they just haven't taken those opportunities. And I think that's why this season will be remembered for, that these teams had a real chance to break into that top 6 and really missed opportunities there. Speaking of Burnley, they drew 1-1 with Southampton, conceding in the last minute through Gabbiadini. A lot of controversy because the referee actually got in the way of Burnley's playing, which allowed Southampton to get the ball back, and then they went on to score. So Burnley weren't best pleased, which you can understand. But, I mean, this season is just incredible for Burnley, because when you consider that the start they made and how good they've been and all the plaudits for Sean Dyche, They haven't won in 12 games now, but they're still 7th. So, yeah, that tells you what I mean by so many teams missing out on big opportunities. Burnley haven't won in 12. Absolutely remarkable. So yeah, that pretty much sums up everything that happened this weekend in the Premier League. Do you agree with the points that I've made? Please comment below, let me know. Always interested to find out. Don't forget, I'll be back later on this week with my Premier League Week 29 predictions. As always, I'm Aaron Whitnall. You've been watching ACW Sport, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel.